What's up guys? Today I'm checking out the new Misha Mansoor Toneforge plugin from Joey Sturgis Tones. This is a great sounding amp sim with a bunch of cool, interesting features that will facilitate a huge variety of tones. I'm not going to get too in-depth with all the features because I'm sure there will be a ton of videos explaining all that in detail. I'm just going to go through quickly and explain what I did to get the sounds you just heard. Just a couple notes before we get into the thick of it. I used my Iones Regius 7 baritone for almost all the guitar parts. The bass was programmed using Impact Studio's Inferno bass, which is a sample library of a Dingwall combustion bass, and for the drums I used Get Good Drums Matt Halpin signature pack. So there's quite a lot of Periphery influence going on here, which was intentional. So let's start with the rhythm sound. I'm using the first section of mode 2 on the gain knob. Basically, as you turn up the gain knob, it goes through these different sections and modes that all sound different from one another. I just cycled through all of them and found this one sounded best for me. There's an absolutely humongous amount of gain on tap, so as you can see I've got it set pretty low, but I am boosting it with the precision drive, which we'll get into in a minute. I've got the tight control set quite high. Basically that's a multi-band compressor that really clears up the low end, and I recommend experimenting with that because it really affects the feel when you're playing. Also, this harmonics control seems to add a really nice upper mid-range presence, so I added a little bit of that in. So here's how I've got the precision drive set. Just going for a nice upper mid and top end boost into the front of the amp, as I would on my pod or any other amp really. Something that's important to note here is that I used a third party impulse for the cab. It was the Red Wires Orange 4x12 mic'd with an SM7. The stock cabs in the plugin sound great, and you'll see in a second that I used them on everything else, but they just weren't quite what I was going for with the rhythm sound. Aside from all that, I just used some simple EQ. Nothing too crazy. This plugin sounds great straight out of the box. So here's how the rhythm tone sounds solo. For the cleans, I was basically going for a bit of a Tesseract Milton Cleans type tone. I actually used my Fret King Jerry Donahue guitar for this. I just kind of fiddled around with the settings and got to this point. As you can see, I made use of the compressor here. This one adds compression before the amp, and I'm also using the other compressor here, pulling about 3 dB just to tame the peaks. I used the JST matched cab. I just thought it sounded great straight away, so I didn't mess with it. And I'm using all 3 of the effects, the delay, chorus and reverb. You can get some really crazy sounds with these effects, as you'll hear later. I pretty much just messed around and settled on this, but you could really spend all day playing with these. Just put a little high and low pass filter on and used S1 just to widen the stereo image a tiny bit. Here's how it sounds. Now this plugin is meant for guitar, but I was pleasantly surprised to discover that it actually sounds incredible on bass too. I'm not going to get into my whole bass chain because that would be an entire video in itself, but I'm basically running a clean DI and this distortion sound together. I'm using the third section of mode 4 on the gain. I've got the tight control boosted again, and a little bit of the harmonic control. In most cases I would use the preamp compressor here, but in this case the bass is programmed, so there's no real need. Precision drive is set similar to the rhythm guitars, just getting a nice little high mid boost. I'm using the JST matched cab and I'm pulling about 4 dB of gain with the post amp compressor. After this, once again, I'm just using some simple EQ. Here's how the bass sounds on its own. Lastly, there's this little lead thing at the end of the track. It's just a funny little noise really, but I just thought I'd go over it quickly. I'm using mode 4 section 3 again, lots of gain and lots of compression, and a fair bit of the saturation knob. Precision drive is set fairly neutral with a little bump on the attack. I'm running the JST matched cab again, and I'm using all the effects. This is just a fun little part, so I basically just did whatever and rolled with it. An interesting feature I'd like to mention here is the pre or post button on the delay. which basically determines whether the delay is placed in front of the amp or in the loop. It's a pretty drastic difference, and I thought for the trashy, spacey sound I was going for here, it sounded great before the amp. But for regular applications, you'd probably want it after. Once again, I've got some basic EQ going after the amp sim, but that's all. It's a bit ridiculous on its own, but here it is just for fun. So that concludes my little demo. I hope you enjoyed it and liked the tones. I was really excited when this plugin was announced, and it lives up to my expectations for sure. I used the standard version of the plugin throughout this demo, but if you go to joeysturgistones.vip, you can get an advanced version that allows you to play with valves, power amp settings, and a bunch of other stuff that will give you more tone shaping options, so I recommend you check that out too. If you like the video, please give it a like and subscribe if you want to see more, and let me know in the comments if you have any thoughts or questions. I normally use a Deity song in these videos, but this time I wrote a track specifically for the demo, so I'd like to know what you think of it. As always, my social media links are in the description, so feel free to follow me on Instagram or Twitter. I'll also put a SoundCloud link in there so you can just listen to the track if you liked it. Thanks so much for checking out the video, and I hope to do more in the near future, so see you soon.